is Manon Jogaleo. I live in the U.S., New York State, Buffalo City. I'm a student at the University of Buffalo, New York. Graduate school, urban planning, majoring, economic and international development. For the development that is going on in our country, especially after the landmark of 2005 peace agreement, which is peace agreement CPA, comprehensive peace agreement, was really a shaping political environment for the whole Sudan, not only for the southern Sudanese, but for the whole Sudan. And when we look at the CPA, was the outcome of long war, civil war in Africa, as we know, cost life more than 2.5 million people lost their life in this civil war. We know how this war affected, especially our young generation, which is born during the war or just reaching the wall, and then the war started in 1983. So we live all through the challenges of civil war between North and South. Whereas the SPLA, Sudan People Liberation Movement, marked a major offensive in 1983. The population or the group who joined the movement mostly are young Southerner from 3 historical provinces, Bahr Ghazal, Upper Nile, and Equatorial region. They joined with one voice of achieving the New Sudan vision, New Sudan of prosperity, New Sudan of democracy, New Sudan of opportunity for all, a country that will be governing without race or regarding the race or religious or the color. That's what they were fighting for. When it came to 2005 agreement that was signed in Nairobi, it was also a historical mark for our people. It is a negotiation of 10 years agreement that started in 95 until 2005. We regard the thank to credit Dr. John Garang Mabior as our father of the nation, who truly negotiated this peace agreement in feasible honor in order to honor those who lost their life. So the provision of CPA, which is Comprehensive Peace Agreement, is brought to protocols that are important for all of us as Sudanese as all, and particular Southern Sudanese. So when we see the major theme of the agreement, it was based on transformation of Sudan from one-man ruler to a democratic country that will be safe for everyone in Sudan. The second thing was agreed transforming Sudan to become a new country that will base on changing attitude of regime in Khartoum and the way the Sudan was being governing, and the reason that was caused the war. So the separation of the state from religions was being addressed, but was not completely. Of course, this north was left with Sharia law system, with Islamic ideology. South was left with a settler system, which is going to be governing as a Southern Sudan governing, which is based on 1956 January 9 border. This is the one of the important provision. And when it comes to the power sharing, which is guaranteed a 30% of Southerners that will be shared in central government with all major positions, including the executive board within the central government. And not only important is that we as a Southerner, through the SPLM negotiation, we guarantee the first vice president, which is going to be representing the Southern Sudan region in any major decision that will be taken in the presidency, including the decisions that are related to comprehensive peace agreement, and including the declaration of war or dissolving of the parliament or state of emergency. All these things, I think, are important in the country, which cannot be done by the president of Sudan, which is currently Bashir, without consultation of First Vice President Salva Kiir, or without consent of the Salva Kiir itself or SPLM as a political wing. This is the one important thing, because it guarantees that the central government, which is the presidency, will not be dictated by the NCP, which is ruling the government since 1989. So it was a good achievement in comprehensive peace agreement. When we came to the wealth sharing in the CPA, it divided the oil of the South through a mechanism that gave 50% of oil share revenue to the government of Southern Sudan and 50% to the central government. This kind of division of the wealth, in most of view of Southerner, it's seen like injustice and unequal. Of course, how can you divide the oil of the South and then leave the oil of the North without no question? So it was a question that was raised, and people are ready to answer in January 9, 2011, whether they would like this kind of division of the wealth that give 50% to the North and the South get zero from the oil of the North, which is take from 50% from South, and then we get zero from the North oil. So it's one of the questions that need to be answered by people of Southern Sudan when they go in to the voting day of January 9, 2011. The second thing in the division of the wealth was to divide the revenue taxes that are collected from the Southern Sudan government, which is the goals. 50% of oil tax revenue go to central government, and 50% of tax revenue left for the region government, which is the government of Southern Sudan. Also, it's seen like it's injustice. Of course, why we pay 50% of the tax revenue to the central government when the central government give us nothing to the southerner. So it's one of injustice division, but we accept it as what we got in order to wait for what we want in January 9, 2011 for our people. This third thing important in the CPA is security arrangement, which actually allowed the more than 100,000 of Sudan Force Army to withdraw from territory of Southern Sudan, and only live in the Southern Sudan like 19 integrated forces, and then 19 from SPLM, and be called integrated forces. Those are now it's called the integrated forces that joining between SPLM, SPLA forces, and Sudan Army forces, and then 3,000 in Nuba Mountain region, and 3,000 in the Blue Nile region, also for both army, SPLM and Sudan Army, which is made up 6,000 for each region. Is called integrated forces. When we come to Khartoum, we SPLA deploy 1,500. Sudan Army deploy 1,500, and they call them integrated forces. Why we see in the security arrangement was a major achievement from the peace agreement itself, because it's allowed the peace to be guaranteed without any fear of violation from the central government. If we learn from the spirit of the agreement of Riek Machar in '97 that was being signed without any guarantee, and also if we look back to 1972 agreement that was signed with our leader Joseph Lago, the first leader of Southern Sudanese of Sudan, Southern Sudan Liberation in 1972 agreement, Joseph Lago signed the agreement, but there's no guarantee. So this time we have the SPLA mother wing, which is also guaranteed the peace agreement, which is called now the South Sudan Army. If there's any violation from the central government, our people will be ready to defend their territory and defend their right in terms of the peace agreement. The fourth thing in the agreement, which is very, very important also, is to give the issue of prioritize the areas that was being marginalized, Blue Nile and Nuba Mountain, which has been given also the interim government that allow them to govern themselves, share with the SPLM and central government, which is SPLM 45% and central government 55%, which is NCP actually, to government the two region, which is share also governmentship. If the SPLM is is a governor, then the deputy will be from NCP. If the NCP is governor, then the deputy will be from the SPLM. So those also was agreement. Beside that, the popular consultation from the marginalized area, Lower Mountain Blue Nile, has been stipulated on agreement that would allow them to conform the system that exists by the agreement that was signed in the Vasha for 2 areas, or request for other alternative that they will look to see happening for the Nuba or Blue Nile, whether they need more autonomy or they need also more power to be guaranteed to them by central government, including the power shared for those areas. When it comes also to the importance of the agreement is the Bay area. Bay area actually was being taken away from southern Sudan since 1905. So Bay is lived by indigenous Ngok Denga, which is belong to the big ethnic group that is lived in southern Sudan. It starts from Upper Nile to Bahr Ghazal region. So this part of the area, which is the Bay area, was being taken away by British and to northern part, which is the South Kordofan. Now the agreement is making it clear that the area will choose between to be a part of the South or the part of the North through the self-determination voting process on January 9, which is going to take place on January 9. So this is also is very important landmark in the agreement. Beside all these things, the only hope for the people of Southern Sudan is the self-determination, that they're going to decide themselves whether they're going to conform the unit that exists in Sudan based on that agreement, or our people will decide to form their own state independent that will be organized by international community and regional government, and including the African Union in 2011. So I believe that the agreement of CPA was come because of involvement of young generation of our, and we would like to see that the war of Sudan will be end with CPA, whether we form our own country or we conform the unity, which I think most likely the Southerner will vote for full independence of their state. And that will be the end of suffering of our people. And I hope that having a country in the South does not mean creating the enemy with the North. It's just having, stopping the suffering that was being going between South and North, and stop the killing in the country. Thank you.